Welcome to the Women Choosing Growth podcast, where we feature inspiring stories of success, challenges of growth, and lessons learned from women entrepreneurs, industry experts, and thought leaders who have been through the growing pains inevitable as an entrepreneur. Whether you are just getting started or are looking to scale up your business, our show is designed to provide you with the tools, resources, and community you need to grow your business. Join your host, Tina Sue, a lifelong entrepreneur and business growth advisor, as we explore topics such as marketing, sales, finance, leadership, and personal growth, all tailored specifically to the needs of women entrepreneurs. So if you're ready to grow your business faster and smarter, then this podcast is for you. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get started.
Welcome back, ladies. Today we are speaking with an award-winning entrepreneur, speaker, podcast host, mom, and publicity guru, Renée Warren. Renée grew her globally recognized PR agency at the same time as having a couple babies. Talk about a superstar. I also love Renée because her mission aligns with mine in helping as many women entrepreneurs start and build their businesses. As many women we can help, that is our mission. She firmly believes, as I do, that the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. Her approach to PR comes from over 25 years of experience running her own business, which we all know includes wearing all the hats, and she specifically thrives in the marketing and PR hats. When she's not momming and running her business, she plays drums and hosts an amazing podcast that you all should listen to, Into the Wild. Welcome to the show, Renée.
Thanks for having me, Tina.
I am so excited, and I do want to really promote the Into the Wild. I have listened to several of your episodes, and it is for the exact audience that is listening to this. And I feel like women can use all kinds of advice, and I agree with you 100% that people who have done it, like yourself and I, and all of the guests that we have, it just helps bring all the women that much more success.
Brings all the women to the yard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So probably like you, my podcast was a passion project. I'd been talking about it for years.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know how to do it. The tech really made me nervous and it overwhelmed me. So finally one day I was like talking about it with my husband and he was frustrated. He goes, when are you going to launch this damn thing? I go, oh, I don't know. He goes, put a date on the calendar now or else never talk to me about this again. I'm like, fair enough. Opened up my calendar and I thought a month out would be enough. So this was April 27th, 2021. Was it 2021? Yeah. And I launched it on that day. I recorded everything myself. I edited everything myself.
Ouch.
Every little bit for the first 8 to 10 episodes. I edited everything.
Oh, so you edited? Recording. Yes, you're recording, but you edited? Oh,
edited.
That's rough.
So I realized that is just not the job for me. And so
it's a job.
It is. Yeah. Some people just get it. But anyway, so I've been working with my producer, editor, Joel now for the past 3.5 years, and it has been so much fun.
Yes. I agree. One of the things I'm sure you have talked about, I talk about all the time, know your superpower, the tech side, not my superpower. So you hire to your weaknesses. You hire someone to do that for you.
Well, I'd say I think I did a great job and I just did not like the work. And I also stacked all of those episodes. When I launched the podcast, I think I published like 8 episodes in the first 2 weeks. That was part of the strategy. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot. I actually went and I rented an Airbnb away from my house for 4 days, no kids, no husband. And I focused just on getting this thing out the door. And because my goal was April 27th, I told everybody that. I was committed to that date. Yes. And so I launched it and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I made it work. And here we are today. We're on episode like 220 something. Maybe even 230. I don't even know where we're at, but it has been so much fun.
It has. And such great content, honestly.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and you are a woman of deadlines, it seems. I gave myself a dime, or keeping promises to yourself.
Yeah. It all goes with, so I have this thing, we'll talk about it too, because it's the 3 things that we were going to take away from my talk at the end of this. Stay tuned to the end of this episode.
Stay tuned and she'll share.
Yes. But anyways, the 3 things that I talk about. And one of them is in reputation. you have to hold yourself, your team, your clients to a standard. And you create that standard. And one of those things is in your reputation is trust. And trust is one of the most important things in getting PR because you become this reliable source. You do what you say you're going to do. That's key to creating a great reputation so that you can grow your reach and then you can get the media coverage of your dreams.
Love it. And it's, for me, it's a core value. I keep my promises to myself and to others.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Before we get into those 3 takeaways, which you will be sharing here shortly, I do want to hear about your journey because I had babies throughout a period of time of starting my business. You went and just did it all. Right?
Yeah.
So can you share even what made you decide to build your own entrepreneur journey and how that intertwined with having some kiddos?
Yeah. So the kids, my boys are only 11 months apart, and that was not by design. It just happened. But my entrepreneurial journey really started when I was a kid, 12 years old with my sister. We started making jewelry and sold it at local markets, and that was fun. Not too serious, but it was kind of an interesting way of being responsible for your income and running a business. But it wasn't until I was 17 years old, my mom turned to me one day and said, "You got to go get a job. This is summertime. All my friends had jobs." And I was like, "No, I don't want a job. I just want $20 on Friday nights from my mom and my dad." And so, this opportunity came where my sister and I could take over the lease of a seasonal restaurant and run it. And I thought,
Interesting.
entrepreneurs, when it's 17 years old, very naive, I thought they just don't work a lot and they make a lot of money. So why wouldn't I just do that? No one else.
Entrepreneurs in general, you thought
Yeah,
business
every
people in general,
entrepreneur.
they fly and travel and make a ton of money. Yeah.
Studied the greats. And I'm like, these people, they're all entrepreneurs. The people that I know that are living the life that I like are all entrepreneurs. So anyways, my friends are getting part-time jobs and they can't control their schedule. I was like, you know what? Let's just do this thing. So what happened is we ended up working 60 or 70-hour weeks.
Yes.
All summer long. We made our own schedule, so we did get days off. But this was back in the late 90s when at the end of the week, when we were floating our till, we would have rolls of $15,000 cash that we would just hide under our bed because that's just how we ran our business. And she's a few years older than me, much better with numbers, but I thought this is cool. So that to me was normal. Being a 17-year-old kid, paying myself $2 an hour above what everyone else was paying themselves on top of getting those profits at the end. That was kind of cool. So I dipped my toes in entrepreneurship. Then I went to school, did my undergrad in business, traveled, got a working visa in Australia, did that for a year, came back, did a graduate program in marketing, got my first corporate job, which lasted less than 2 years, in an industry that trained small businesses. And this was at the time too when Twitter was the cool social media platform. And in around 2008, 2009, when Virgin America was flying out of Canada, I was nominated as a top social media influencer in Toronto, and I won a ticket anywhere Virgin America flew in North America. That was kind of neat. So then companies started hiring me saying, "Hey, you figured out this social media thing. Can I hire you to help me figure that out for the business?" These are pretty big companies. And that was fun. So I started a consulting company where I'd just bring my laptop to their office a couple days a week and I'd help them figure out a strategy. That led to co-founding a social media agency with my partner at the time, a business partner, Steve. And eventually I sold my shares out of the company to move on to a different thing, which was doing social media and content marketing for tech companies out of San Francisco. And that's when I met my other business partner, Heather, who was doing PR for tech companies. So we were doing all these projects together. One day when I was 8 months pregnant with her, we went out for lunch and I said, "Heather, listen, we're doing all this work together, pretty much in a business together. Why don't we just start a company together?" And she looked at me and she's like, "Renée, you're 8 months pregnant. Are we doing this now?" I said, "Yeah, babies just sleep all the time. We've got this." So we started becoming incorporated. It was June. Max was born in August. And in that first year of business, we had clients all over the world. And we hired, I think we had 4 or 5 employees. And it just kept growing to the point where we had 12 employees. and we passed the $1 million mark. But in that same year, I had my second son. In that time too, my husband just sold his startup and he was raising around for his new startup. So he was flying all over the place.
My
People
goodness.
ask me, how'd you do it? It was just survival mode. I was overwhelmed, exhausted. My brain wasn't working. I was just in like cruise control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when everything dipped for me, my health, my awareness. I didn't have any clarity. I was just going with the flow. And eventually my business partner left and I started to shut the company down. This is while we were going through due diligence to be acquired. And I thought, how
Oh my
cool is
goodness.
this? And it almost happened. However, when we looked at our sales projections, when things were really good within the agency, and then we looked at our earnout based on what we could have received if we had sold the company, our sales projections far exceeded what the earnout would have been. So we're like, oh, screw that. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep doing this thing. Little did I know that's the transition point from when my co-founder was leaving. And then other things happened in the company. That was 7 years in. Finally, I was like, I'm beyond burnt out. I can't carry this company by myself anymore. I never had that rest. When both my sons were born, I was back to work full-time within a couple days of them being born, and then in the office full-time when they were like 4 or 5 weeks old.
Yeah, it's rough.
And Canada has one of the longest mat leaves in the world.
Yes.
And for me to do that was like, this is a great opportunity. Entrepreneur, I wasn't paying into what we have employment insurance. I wasn't paying into it. So I didn't actually qualify for that mat leave. However, we were in a good position where I could have taken time off, couldn't because of business. But there was also so much shame wrapped around this woman that just had a baby going back to work because most of my friends and family are not entrepreneurs.
It was the normal thing in Canada.
So they just are like, why are you
To
doing
take
this
off.
for yourself? And I'm like, oh God,
Sure.
I don't know, but my business needs me. It needs me to run it. And I get my baby needs me too. Luckily for my husband and I, my sister-in-law had a in-home daycare and she gladly took my boys at such a young age. So you can imagine she was taking 2 babies that were pretty much under a year old. So it was like Max had just maybe turned 1 and Noah was fresh and it's like dropping them off at daycare.
Yeah. 3-day-old baby.
3-day-old. He's still steaming. And then and so people are like, well, tell me about that time in your life. To be honest with you, I don't remember much. It was like when you're experiencing trauma, and it's not like anything was wrong. My relationship with my husband was amazing. My kids were healthy. My business was successful. But there was so much going on that my body did not have a chance to recover at all.
Sure.
So I was always stressed physically, emotionally. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't working out, wasn't sleeping, wasn't drinking enough water. My diet was crap. They called me skinny fat because I'm a 6 foot tall woman, naturally slim figure, but I was skinny fat. I was not healthy. And that just affects everything in your life, mood, you name it. So anyway, when I shut down the doors to that agency, I felt this sense of freedom. But also it dipped me into a good 4-year cycle of trying to find myself. So here I am, my identity wrapped up in running this successful agency. Now I'm questioning myself, who am I? And it was all about like, who am I to other people? It wasn't about who am I to myself. And it wasn't a year ago. So early December in 2022, when I went to my second Date with Destiny event, so Tony Robbins event, intense event. If you've ever been to a TR event, these are 6 days in a row, 12 to 16-hour days, and he's having you do the work, the deep work about stuff inside, like the trauma, the triggers. That's when I said, you know what? I love PR. I love running a company. I love what PR is about. I want to get back into that. Here's the interesting thing, Tina. When I ran that previous PR agency for those 7-ish years, I had never pitched the media a day in my life. I had never written a press release, a pitch. I ran the company and I hired people to do the thing.
Sure.
So when I was dabbling in it again, I had some companies here based out of British Columbia that I'm an investor in that said, hey, Renee, can we tap on your expertise and hire you to do some PR? Like, okay. I had to ask ChatGPT, how do you write a press release? That's but I figured out a way to do it that was different and unique and quick and seamless. So I didn't have these like bad habits in PR. So then finally one day I was like, you know what? Turn to my husband, I'm going back into PR. This is where my heart is aligned, where my energy is aligned. I mean, do you realize that the industry of public relations is one of the 10 most stressful occupations in North America, next to being a police officer, next to being in the army?
Or a dentist. Apparently, dentists
Yes.
are stressed too.
And so I'm
Yes.
like, yes, sign me up for something that sounds so ridiculous.
Yes. Not the
But I
top 5
love the
lists you want to
place.
be in.
Now, if you go back and you look at my career, started a restaurant at 17, never had experience, started a PR agency, never had experience. I'm like, I can do that. I can do this. No problem.
Sure.
So it got me back into it. The cool thing about it is my approach is so different. And I'm in this position now with such authority that I get to choose who I work with. And I reach out to these people, and it's been so much fun. And we're like, we're in a year in now. And it has been probably one of the most thrilling seasons of my entrepreneurial life.
I love that. So what made it clear for you that, even because you did it, but you hired people to do it, and you had a you could have picked anything this second time around, if you will. You're discovering yourself. What was the point when you're like, nope, gosh darn it, I'm good at it and it makes me happy?
There was a moment coming back from, I don't know, day 4 of Date with Destiny, going back to our Airbnb. And I was writing it out on all of the books, like the workshop papers they have you fill out. And I was like, oh, why is it I'm so interested about this? So I'm going to come back to answering that moment. But have you ever read the book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron?
I have not.
So this was part of that 3-year, 4-year unfolding of understanding who Renée Warren is. And part of what you do is you write morning pages. So this is 3 pages of conscious stream of thought, and you just write down whatever comes to mind. And she tells you not to go back to the previous days, or like, don't reread your notes. But I have my little bit of rule breaker. I'm like, I want to look for patterns in what I'm writing. And I did. I found all these patterns about, I was always telling myself that I love this, but I was denying it for some reason. And there's a whole story about denying. Remember, I started my last agency having 2 babies, overwhelmed, completely stressed out. So in my mind, that feeling, that emotion of what I was feeling in those first few days was connected to running a PR agency.
Sure. Makes sense.
But it didn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be the case at all. I'm not having any more babies, by the way. We're done. So anyway, when I was writing this stuff down, part of that work, I'm going to the Tony Robbins event. And I was like, you know what? I decided, it wasn't sharing this with my husband. He was with me and my brother and sister-in-law. It's like, I want to do PR. That's what I want to do. So I get home. I don't know. It was like 2:00 in the morning. And we're trying to wind down before going back to bed. I check my email. And in my inbox, without anybody knowing that I decided to do this, there were 2 people that wanted to hire me to do PR.
Randomly.
And so I'm like, God, I get it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. This is a pretty clear sign, honestly.
Yeah. Just write me the check right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm not denying this. And then I just leaned into it. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but you know what? I'm going to figure it out. And we are figuring it out. And we're crushing it. Just absolutely loving it this year.
This is exactly why I love hearing stories of the path that gets you to where you're at, because there's so many pivots in the journey, right? Tell me about who's on your team now. What's your team look like?
So I have an assistant. Her name is Morgan. She's a game changer. And then I have a bunch of contractors. So I have Joel, who does all my podcast stuff. We have writers, but I don't have an employee. And it's not to say that's not going to happen, but I know what it was being employee heavy running this agency in the past to trimming the fat in terms of like even just our service offering. Before, it was just so bloated with stuff that we were offering. Now I have 2 things. And if people ask for more, I just say, I don't do that. And if they don't want to work with me, that's fine. But I'm not going to commit myself to something that doesn't feel aligned with the work that I know I'm really good at. So there's Morgan and myself and some contractors. And here's the cool thing is I'm going to pay myself more this year than I did any year running that agency.
Hey, incredible women entrepreneurs. It's Tina Sue here. I know you're juggling a lot, growing your business, managing family time, and trying to find balance. Deep down, you know you're capable of so much more, but maybe fear or uncertainty is holding you back from achieving that dream business, that dream life that you deserve. That's why I created the Dream Big, Plan Bigger guide, a game changer for your business growth. This isn't just another goal-setting document. It's your personal roadmap to achieving the impossible. Imagine having a clear vision of your biggest dreams, breaking through the barriers that hold you back, and reigniting that passion that fuels your journey. This guide is your roadmap to doing just that without compromising your family time or your personal priorities. You deserve to see your business thrive and still have time for what you love. Let's take this journey together. Download your free Dream Big, Plan Bigger workbook now at tina-sue.com and start making those dreams a reality. Now, let's get back to the show. Seems very strategic and smart.
Yeah.
And there's some people, when you said I have no employees, they definitely perked up because employees are, employees are great. That can get you to the next step. But
Totally.
Having employees is also another challenge in a business.
It's like, it's one of those things where it's like employees are absolutely crucial and necessary in growing a business. You can't grow a business without having a team.
No, it's a one
But
person
there's
show.
also a lot of pressure in the business world to scale up, hire fast, delegate fast. And while I agree with it, depending on how fast you want to grow your business, there's just some people that are not educated enough or experienced enough to just grow that fast. And sustainable business growth is like a very feminine approach, but it's what we're doing this time for this business because I'm having fun and I don't want that part to end.
Right. Yeah. It's working.
It's working.
It's working.
Yeah.
It's working and you're having fun, and that's what it's really about.
Yeah.
And providing great service to your clients.
Exactly. Yeah.
So on that note, is that what I almost am thinking that I might know the answer to that, but along that whole journey, you kind of, you went this route, then, and now you're in this happier place. You were happy before, but kind of in your mojo place. What was your biggest lesson in that whole journey?
Oh, the first thing that comes to mind right now is I stopped caring what other people thought of me. I'm like, oh, if I go back into running an agency, what are my old employees going to think? Right? What's my old business partner going to think? Like, why do I care about these? I don't talk to these people anymore. It's not like we had a falling out. It's just that we're not in each other's lives as much anymore. And then I'm like, I built this whole identity around PR, and then I broke free of it, and then I got into coaching. So people aren't going to trust me. And like, why does it matter? And so the moment I made that decision and I shared this on Instagram, I got so many messages, phone calls, DMs from my friends, from my community saying, so nice to finally see you back in your power. It's like, you can see you shining again, Renee. I'm like, oh, everybody else knew about me.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's like I'm summarizing this collective thought for women. I see it so much too, is we really stop ourselves from doing something. So we're so scared of the unknown. But that is what entrepreneurship really is about. You're not supposed to figure it out or know it. Like jokingly, when I walked into my team stand-ups every Monday morning in front of my 12 employees, I'd say, hey guys, good morning. I don't know what we're doing today, but let's do it as a joke. Like, I'm like, I don't know what's going, but it was real underneath it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think there's too much pressure into having it all figured out. And that's why people just don't take the leap. This time I'm like, I'm going to jump and we'll figure it out on the way down.
Yes, I've definitely said that. Like, build the airplane on the way out when you jump out of
build your
plane.
parachute on the way down.
Build a parachute out of, yes, exactly. Yep, definitely. Well, and I think if there are obviously people, you've probably worked with some, I definitely have, where they think they have to have the whole plan crystal clear and I'm going to follow steps A, B, C, D all the way to Z in a nice linear path. But that's not taking enough risk, in my opinion. That's like
Mhm.
just, you're not picking your head up and looking at other opportunities and other ways of doing things if you're not being like, I'm not really sure what we're going to do, but gosh darn it,
Yeah.
we're going to do our best and we're going to give it a whirl.
Yeah, and it's calculated risk. The first two things you outsource when you start a business is accounting and legal. Because
Mm-hmm.
even if you're an accountant, or even if you're a lawyer, because you just need to have that safety net. You need to be set up properly from the very beginning. I hired a coach in the past 6 months, and I said, "Hey, let's get this agreement signed. Do you have anything that you can shoot over and I'll sign it?" She goes, "Huh, that's my Achilles heel. I don't ever have agreements. I should work on that." So yeah, you should. The
Yeah.
biggest mistake I made in starting my business back in the early days was just assuming this great relationship will last because we just agree on every single partnership that I've had has come to a point where we have to renegotiate or look at the agreement again.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be complex. And you can get your lawyer to draft something up. There's really cool, affordable templates online that you can download. And when it comes to accounting, it's just knowing your numbers. You don't have to be an accountant. You don't have to know depreciation, amortization. No. If you want to, great. You need to work with somebody who can help you build out a very basic financial system. A great bookkeeper can do this for you, and they can update your numbers weekly or monthly. And
Mm-hmm.
somebody, if it's not you, is accountable to presenting those numbers. Because that
You're
is, I mean, we can look at like our social following all day or our podcast downloads all day. If we're not looking at our numbers, what does that make sense? Doesn't
You are
make any sense.
speaking my love language right now. As a financial queen, like business advisor, all the things, but everything in business comes back to the numbers. And for me, it comes back to the profit and the
Yeah, totally.
enterprise value. Because like we're not running the business for sales, we're running it for the bottom line.
Exactly. It's not a hobby, it's a business.
Exactly. Hobbies
They
are
can be a
great.
hobby. Hobbies are
Yeah.
great. I play drums as a hobby.
Yes. Side hustles are fine.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about here. Yes. So
Yeah,
that
and I
was
think
very
that
much, I
too.
couldn't have paid you to like say that.
Well,
Like, that was
you're
amazing.
welcome. Now's the time to plug your program, Tina.
Yeah,
But I also
exactly.
say this because, admittedly, I am still to this day not great with my numbers. It was something that scared me, even when it was good. I don't know why. I have a relationship with money that's quite different than my husband, who was like every day looking at his Stripe account. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Well, things are great. I'm not looking. It's so for me, it's even more important that I have somebody that's even accountable to me to show my numbers.
And I think you said something very important there. I've seen so many successful business people that are like, well, no, like we're profitable, we're fine, and kind of, shoo it away. But it's not about like, oh, I have enough to pay for the things coming up. It's really about what are those numbers mean? Where am I at in my industry? What could I do better? I mean, someone's going to be like, hey, in the next 6 months, I'm going to hand you another 500,000. Would you be like, no, thanks, I'm good?
Right? Or it's like you're
Right.
profitable until the tax bill comes. You're like,
Right.
"Oh, I
Yes.
forgot about this thing." And we're coming up to the end of the year. If I don't know when this episode's going live, maybe it's in the new year. But here's the best thing to do for your business on January 1. On that day when everyone else is tired or hungover or got nothing to do, is start collecting all of those receipts if you don't already do this for the year and getting all of your tax crap together and be the first person that your accountant does the work for.
Mm-hmm.
Because
We have an episode on tax strategy, so go
there
back
you
and
go.
listen to that.
Yeah. So now it's time to plug that episode.
Yes,
But really, it's
exactly.
just about being organized, setting up those systems. We use accounting software, and then we use HubDoc, where I can forward all my receipts, and it goes and it all connects. And yes, it was grueling setting it up. And believe me, this past July and August was the time that I actually transitioned to a bunch of new softwares, reincorporated, opened a new bank account all at the same time. And it was a lot. It was very heavy for a couple months, but guess what now? I don't do anything. It's just running in the background.
Yep. You're
And
like, end of year? Cool.
it's like click, click, there you go.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, all those little things that are the nuances, because like what you said in the beginning, people think entrepreneurs just like have all this money and they live these extravagant lives. Like, no, this is the crap we're doing in July and August when everyone else is at the beach.
Yeah. It's like, you don't
Yes.
think it's work. Like for me, work is because I'm also a service provider. For the most part, I still do the work. So to me, that's the work. Like we're actually today in the middle of a PR VIP day where I create the PR strategy for clients that they execute. Um, so part of work for me is doing that PR day. This right now isn't work to me. This is fun. It's
This is
like
fun stuff.
having coffee with a friend. But then there's also that little thing in the back of my mind saying, "Oh no, it's 1:45 in the afternoon on a Thursday. I have to work. I still have 5 hours worth of work left." So,
Yes.
it's an interesting thing, but yeah, setting up those systems in your business is huge.
It is huge. So speaking of businesses, and you obviously have such a great knowledge of that. Your podcast was before this reinvention of yourself.
Yeah.
So how did we talked a little bit about your passion of wanting to help women with the podcast, but there is a gap in there.
Yeah. So I was business coaching, and the idea was to have people that have motivated me or inspired me as to be guests on the show, which happened. It still happens. But now the focus is a little bit different. So now it's like these people that are notable, how they built their authority. And we all love the hero's journey. It's really important to be storytelling because these people might be anything from like professional athletes to tech entrepreneurs to you name it, authors. But we're talking about a strategy that got them to where they are today. Because people look at these people and they think there's so much nuance in how somebody becomes an influencer or has a big reach on social. Because the more reach you have, and we're going to talk about these three things at the end too, the quote, easier it is for you to even extend that reach more. And so when we talk about, like when I interview these guests, we talk about that journey. So you got from there to here, how'd you do it? And it was all about like building that reputation, building up like to get news, you have to create news. You might have like a great story, but is it newsworthy? So we talk about this too. So these are people that have accomplished something great already. So we talk about that greatness. And that greatness is kind of like the golden ticket to get them even more reach.
So elaborate that on your expertise. So if someone's like, okay, that sounds great, Renee, how do I do that?
Yeah.
How do I get more reach?
Three things right now?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
What are the three things that our listeners should really know? And if they listen to nothing else, they checked out, but they're checking back in. This is where they need to take away.
Come back.
We're still here.
Yes. So these are the three things are a part of what I call the authority arc. So think of like a rainbow. At the end of the rainbow is a pot of gold. And I just call it your golden ticket. So like you become this golden ticket. The first part of it is being rare. So there's a ton of business coaches out there, a ton of fitness coaches out there. There's a ton of PR people out there and publicists. How are you different than everybody else? It's in your unique positioning. It's in becoming unforgettable and unlike anybody else. And people are like, oh, well, I don't know. I'm not really that different. We all have the story. We all have unique stories that are exclusive to ourselves, that are part of what people want to invest in because people buy from those they know, like, and trust.
Yes.
The next part, so that's number one, is be rare. Rare is like a diamond. Rare is like the golden ticket to the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Yes.
We all want it because not too many people can have it. Diamonds are hard to mine for. And they're one of the most tough materials in the world. And they're beautiful. They're shiny no matter what. So that's what makes them rare. How are you rare? The next thing is your reputation. So number two is reputation. And people, like I said, they buy from those they know, like, and trust. But trust is the most important thing is you say, or you do what you say you're going to do. You're reliable. You're accountable. These are very important to actually getting media coverage. Okay. And then it's setting a standard. You have to be the one that sets the standard for your business, who you work with, how you show up, everything. We are here's an example. We're setting a new standard for our business. So we're in a place where we pitch the media a lot. So there's three of us that do the pitching on the team. And we kind of talked about this before recording, how the PR industry has shifted so much, but we use technology that allow us to know if somebody has opened an email or if they've clicked on a link in an email. And I can't tell you how many times our pitches get opened, which is a great thing, but we don't get any response. And it's like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they just replied with something, not a good fit, not now, or follow up in 5 months? Like, wouldn't that be great? And I get it. Journalists, they can get like 500 to 1,000 emails a day. So we're setting a new standard in our business because we get pitched a lot to be on the podcast. We get pitched a lot for collaborations. And our standard for going into 2024 is to reply to every single pitch with an action. Not a good fit, not now, follow up in 3 months. Because there's a human on the other side of that doing a job.
Yes.
And they just need to know that they've been seen and heard. And even if it's a no, it's a no. And that's better than nothing, let me tell you. It's a world of pitching. So now we go into reach. So reach is the third thing. And in the reach, it's all about, all right, you're going to jog my mind here because I had this memorized yesterday. Oh, reach is about systems and procedures. So you think, how does that relate to PR? It has everything to do with PR. When you're creating up a system for pitching, simple as like we pitch on Wednesdays, we follow up on Thursdays. We only pitch at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And we only follow up at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We don't pitch on Mondays and Fridays. Here's how we pitch. Here's how we use the media list, the procedure, so that if you had to let somebody go or somebody just didn't show up for work one day, you can carbon copy their work to somebody else. The next thing is creating a simple PR strategy. And so in extending your reach, it means something like, for instance, I have a client, we're redoing the content for her social media account. And she went from being sporadic and throwing spaghetti at the wall, posting a lot of personal stuff, then some sales stuff. She's a sales coach, and then some other stuff. And when we got more strategic with the content that she was sharing, which was really more specific with her audience, which is people who want to learn about sales, we started to lose followers and engagement went down. She goes, oh my God, we're doing this wrong. And I said, no, we're not. We're doing this right. Because what's going to happen now is you're going to start getting more followers that need that information. And trust the process.
Her cousins fell off the list. But
yeah,
now
exactly. It's like mom and dad and the cousins are gone.
Yeah, grandma stopped following you. It's okay.
Yeah, grandma's always cheering you on. Grandma's always there. Mom's always there too. So creating a simple strategy, which is, I have so many free resources on the website too. But the last thing, which is arguably the most important thing in growing your reach, is consistency. And I say consistency is your currency with everything that you do in life. You want to lose weight, got to be consistent. Want to have a good night's sleep, got to be consistent with your sleep routine. So when it comes to showing up on social, creating content, pitching the media, it's all about consistency. When you work with me on our VIP days, we have a 90-day rule because part of this day is we develop the entire strategy for you. We teach you how to do it, and then you go and pitch using the angles that we've written for you. So it's up to the client to do the pitching. So the implementation is actually quite easy, but our rule is 90 days. You have to do this actively for 90 days. I'm not saying pitch on Sundays and Saturdays, but for 90 days, you got to be pitching the list like I tell you to pitch in the manner that we've written for you to know that it's going to work or not, because people give up after the second week. After the second week, I get messages, Renée, it's not working. This angle's not good. Like, Would you give up on losing weight if you didn't lose your 40 pounds?
I was literally going to say that. Do you work out for 2 weeks and be like, I didn't lose 20 pounds like I wanted?
The same thing. And the ones that win are the ones that allow themselves to get bored, allow themselves to feel like they're a monkey or a robot doing the same task over and over and over again. Once you start getting those wins, it's like you feel a sense of relief, like, finally. And you get there. So that consistency is the most important thing. So just a reminder, those 3 things are being rare, developing a great reputation, and growing your reach.
I love it. That was so much information packed in a small little, we're going to bullet point that as well. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that we've heard for years, that people need to see things multiple times in order to absorb it, right? So you can't do something 3 times and be like, they don't know about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and there's even, so in the VIP day, I teach you how to follow up again with the same journalist, when to do it, what to say in the second time you follow up, or if you're following up again in 6 months. PR is such an interesting thing. So what I know is that you might pitch a notable journalist and the story might be interesting to them. There's just no fit for it right away. And they won't delete that email if it's a good pitch. But they'll come back to it a few months later, even a year later, if they're assigned a story that requires that pitch. The first thing to do is they search their inbox for the information that already exists. And it has happened where out of the blue, it's like clients get a half-page spread in like Women's Day. Like I didn't even know this happened. Just somebody took a picture of it one day. I was like, what? This was like 8 months after our contract ended. And we got the media win.
You're like,
So it's the longest lead time for any industry. If you're running online ads, you can create your ads, you can launch it, and you'll know within like 72 hours if the ad is converting. With PR, it doesn't work like that. It's like, ooh, will this pitch get a response? Will they come back to me? Will they be interested? Who knows? Takes a long time.
What's the person on the other side of that computer thinking right now?
Right. And there's also like most people are not even staff writers anymore. These are freelance writers that work for multiple publications, and they get assignments all the time. So they're like, hey, Tina, go and write about the best iPhone cases for the new iPhones that are waterproof, that allow the actual magnet to go through the case so that you can put it to your magnet stand. If you're a writer, you're like, hey, here's my query. So now you're like, oh, my due date's tomorrow at midnight. You got to find these people that have the right phone cases. And then you might be working on multiple assignments at a time.
Totally different subjects.
You'll search your email. Oh, geez, this Renee girl that pitched me 6 months ago mentioned this phone case. Perfect. I'm going to include this. That's how it works.
That's very enlightening.
Yeah.
I have a question from thinking of people listening that maybe are not doing PR. Who needs to do PR?
Oh, everybody.
And when do they do it in their agency
From the
or in
very
their company?
beginning.
What'd you say?
Everybody, and from the very beginning.
Okay.
So if you think about the 3 things that I talked about in the authority arc, being rare, having a great reputation, increasing your reach, those are things that are constant. The first part of being rare is really identifying like your messaging and your positioning. How are you unforgettable? What is the story? People love the story. As Maya Angelou says, people remember the emotion of what you said, but don't remember what you said. Stories evoke emotion. And how are you unlike anybody else? This is when you dig deep. You like sit there on your Sunday morning coffee and you're like, how am I different than, like really different than anybody else? That's your positioning. And then there's the reputation bit too, where it's really easy to ruin a reputation. It's hard to build one. So that should be a really goal. It's like, how are you, like your standards, the example that we did with our standards is I want to be the person that somebody pitches or the team that somebody pitches. They know they're going to feel like a human saying, I'm sorry, it's not a good fit, but thanks for thinking of us. It takes 5 seconds to do that. And I know there's some people like, oh, they feel entitled. I'm better than that. Who is this Tina person? She doesn't matter. She's smaller than me. My business makes $50 million a year. Or I have 6 million followers on Instagram. I'm better than you. I don't subscribe to that attitude.
Me neither.
So we set those standards for your reputation.
You've got me thinking about that because that is one thing too. I am a reply, hey, I'm sorry it took me 24 hours because that's like my standard to get back to you. I'm going to work on this on Friday because I'm super busy right now. But I am the same way. I want to let you know I saw it. I'm going to look at it, research it, get back to you, whatever. Not many people do that.
No. And also there's the guilt of, oh, geez, it's just another email in their inbox. But here's the thing, if they're communicating to you via that way, that's how they want to be communicated with.
Yep. It makes me happy to do that. So if they just want to delete it and be like, whatever, that's fine. But I did my part to make me happy.
Yeah. Like then, hey, listen, if you really do receive way too many emails in a day, I have some people that have really brilliant auto responses that have such eloquent way of saying, we get a lot of emails. I'm so sorry I missed this, but here are ways to reach us. If it's this, email this person. If it's this, do this. And that's okay too, because at least it's something.
I just was communicating with someone last week that I absolutely love their email signature, said I follow the 3 email rule. If this is going to take more than 3 replies, back and forth, you need to pick up the phone and call me, and here's my number. I was like, I never saw that before, but it's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. For me,
but then I'm also conscious of like, is this email 2 or 3 that I have to do I need to pick up the phone right now? Like, it's one sentence. Can I just send it?
Well, my team and I communicate over Voxer. I communicate over Voxer with all my clients. I say email is really for sending files and sharing and that, but like Voxer is the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works for us.
Well, Renee, you've shared so much today. You've spoke my love language several different times. So I absolutely appreciate having you with us and all the women listening today. Again, I will put all the links to follow you on social media, listen to her podcast. She says if you're a businesswoman, you should be having some PR. So you should reach out to her, and maybe one of these workshops would be a great start.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the Authority Booster Intensive is their VIP day, where you work with my team and I for an entire day. We create your strategy and we teach you how to implement. And then I have your typical retainer-based work too. But I will say this is at the time of this recording, we are booked out for the next 4 months, which is a great problem to have.
Sounds like more staff is needed.
I know. You sound like my husband. Yeah,
there's those growing pains that we all have, but it's all in pursuit of helping other people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. Any final words for our lovely lady listeners?
My favorite quote by Stevie Nicks. She says, "If you're gracious, you've already won the game."
Perfect way to end. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. The Women Choosing Growth Show is not just another podcast. It's a tribe of women helping each other grow. So please, share this podcast with all the women entrepreneurs that you would love to see succeed. If you'd like to know more about customized business advising through Cultivate Advisors, download business tools, or sign up for upcoming events, visit www.womenchoosinggrowth.com. Once again, that's www.womenchoosinggrowth.com. Remember, we are in this together. See you on the next one.